Good morning. We are live. This is Allie Brown. I'm here with Sara Yagoub, formerly Brown. I feel like we should say the artist formerly known as Sara Brown. Yeah. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. And where are you, Sara?
I am in Houston, Texas.
Yeah. I am so excited for this conversation because Sara will go places that other people won't.
I like it.
So our biggest decision today is like, where do we rein this in? But I think if you enjoy a different perspective on things, if you're curious what's going on in the world right now and kind of how it relates to us as not only humans, but our businesses and just, it's actually a very exciting time. And that's where we're going to leave you today. But we're going to walk you through a lot of the craziness that's happening right now. And the ways that we're looking at things and how to turn that into a place of being empowered. And so, Sara, I'll give you a brief introduction, but then I'd love you to share your story. And so Sara is here as a guest on my We Lead Live because I've gotten to know her so well as she's a member of the Trust, which is my network for 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. And in this series, I'm introducing some amazing women. Some are members of the Trust and some are not, but bringing them in to have the conversations at the levels that I know many of you have kind of been waiting for. And so that's We Lead Live. And we're here Mondays and Thursdays at noon Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific. And so getting to know Sara, I was not only impressed with the business that she built, which is just not what I expected you're just so glamorous to me. And then to realize that you run basically an HVAC services company. But I knew there was another layer to you. I knew there was some really interesting things. And Sara is the owner of multiple businesses. One is called the Referral Circle. And then she's also launching a new podcast. I think it's best to let you explain the evolution of your businesses because that's a big part of who you are and who you've become. So I'd love to turn it over to you, Sara.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you're not the only person who tells me that I am not what they expected when I talk about an AC service. It's funny because even as going from corporate to owning my own business, they have not been glamorous. I went from fast food worker to restaurant worker to corporate with guys and in oil and gas and energy. So I've just always been in like male dominated environments. But I'll start with my entrepreneurship journey, I guess, started from corporate. I actually accidentally became an entrepreneur just out of necessity. It was not like my long-term goal at all, but I was in corporate and it was going well. And I climbed that corporate ladder really quickly. And it worked well until it didn't work well anymore, right? And so while I was climbing the corporate ladder, I was fine. But really, when I had kids, I knew that I had to get out of that lifestyle. The oil and gas industry, whilst maybe some corporate businesses are getting a little bit better about, making accommodations for women or just making it so that a woman or a parent is able to work in corporate. When I was in oil and gas, that was not the case. And it just became to the point where I was missing a lot of my daughters first. My relationship with my husband was kind of falling down the drain. And so I just realized that I needed to really make a change in my life. And so since I had worked in corporate for so long and had built all these business management skills, and my husband, who is an AC technician and worked for a lot of different big companies, and he didn't like it because he was finding that there was a lot of corrupt practices and just deception tactics, I guess is the best way to put it, for sales. So he was kind of tired of it as well. And so I was like, well, why don't we just start our own AC business? I know how to run a business. You know how to fix ACs. Let's put it together and see what happens. So we did that. We jumped into it. It's been a huge game changer in our lives because obviously we're able to be with our family, be with our children, and we're able to build a business where we can really incorporate our morals, our values, our ethics, the things that really matter for us into our business. And so being able to do that, seeing what didn't work in corporate and putting it into our small business is really what moved my business so quickly, like growing it and just building it because of the fact that people, I think, were so tired of these corporate kind of businesses around here that were not transparent, that were lying to get money, that were, like just so cold and not heart-centered is like the best way I can describe it. And so when we come along and we give like the small business feel while still getting really good quality, That's what helped the business to truly grow. And so, yeah, Be Cool is my AC company, and it grew. And then once it started growing and people started noticing, people were reaching out to me in the small business community saying, can you come speak here or speak there or teach us, like, what are you doing to help the business grow so quickly? So that organically just turned into what is the referral circle, where I was just building a program where entrepreneurs can learn how to take some of these big business concepts that really work, like customer loyalty, customer referral programs, looking at CRMs and putting it into your small business, all of those types of things that actually do work really well in corporate, and putting it into your small business. Because I think a lot of small business owners don't realize, like, okay, you can do the same thing. You might not have as big of a budget, but you can still make it work on whatever budget you're on. And so once I started to teach the small business owners how to do that, it was great, and I really love to do it. However, it kind of transformed into me realizing that maybe it wasn't exactly the strategies that they needed help with. It was more of that mindset shift of learning that they actually are empowered to make the decisions in their business. They don't have to follow any type of status quo. They don't have to do it like everyone else is doing it, right? They don't have to compare what they're doing to what other people are doing. So it really, the business of the referral circle, I still have like the strategic parts that you can get on your own, but where I enjoy working with small business owners is really stepping into who they become in order to run a business, on their own terms. So that's how that's evolved.
Yeah, sorry. What's interesting about that I just wrote down is that it's kind of a microcosm for what's going on in the world, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think a lot of small business owners really underestimate the power they have building personal relationships with their clients and customers. So, and things like referrals, taking time to send a birthday card. I mean, just simple things like that. I was just asked for an article, actually, I was interviewed for, saying, what do you think is going to be increasingly important in the next year or two with everything going on, all the disruption? And I said that personal connection, because the big companies cannot create that. They can mimic it. They can have the systems for it, right? Like you learned for the referrals, but having that personal touch and putting that effort in a human connection way is going to become even more important.
Agreed. Especially considering even just, this has always been important, right? That, reconnecting with that human type, like that people first model, but especially after what's happened in 2020 and even going into right now, with quarantine and social distancing and all of this stuff, that's really taken out that human aspect of things, so that we've become very technologically driven, doing everything online and stuff like that. When we come out of this, people are going to yearn more than ever that human connection, that personal touch, that connection, that gathering. So I think that every way a small business can think of how to personalize the business, right, and get back to that heart-centeredness, that people first mentality, the better off they'll be going into what's coming, like in the next year or two, or actually I think even longer than that. So
yeah. Can you give a few examples, or just tell us a bit about how, so for example, for the Be Cool business, right? Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, great demand. You're in Houston, it's hot. So that was another factor, by the way. It's hot all the time. People need AC. This is a business you can't not be in. It's perfect. But how would you bring that personal touch to something like that, which you may think, well, it's a very just tangible, practical service. People just need the service. How do you bring that special touch to it? And because it's obviously worked, because you brought your business to multiple seven figures, just that business alone.
Well, I'll say this pre and post 2020, because 2020, we made a lot of, we did a lot of things differently than I think a lot of the businesses around me did. So I'll talk about that in just a second. But even before 2020, I will say that the personal connection was so important to us. One, I don't know if you know this, but I actually left pre-med school because of the fact that I felt like it was very numbers oriented, right? It's like, okay, where's my next case, or where's my next number? And Bo, also my husband, didn't want to work in his AC businesses, because he felt like it became very like, okay, customer 125, customer 126, customer, they didn't know the names of their customers or anything like that. So when we came into this business, what I told him was very important was that we build rapport with all of our clients. So before we go in and just show up and say, where's the AC, let me fix it, it's like, come in and get to know your customer, like, oh, hi, Miss Brown, how are you today? We put in our CRMs, we put like our customers' children's names, their pet names, You know, like all of these little things,
So
like
smart.
we know someone's having a surgery, we send a card saying, hey, we hope you did well. And these are things you find out when you have any type, it doesn't mean you just go to someone's home. Even if you're having phone conversations with your clients, you find out like, okay, so-and-so just left their job. They're in a bad situation. Let me check in on them. Let me put it on my CRM in a month or so to just check in and say, how's the job search going? You know, it's just very like small things that you do that don't really take a lot of time or effort or money, but they go a long way for your clients. And so the reason that I mentioned that this is so important is because when 2020 came along, our customers weren't mad when we said, okay, hold on, let's see what's going on with this quarantine thing. Let's see what's going on. You know, if it took us longer to run a service because we were a man down or something like that, we didn't lose clients and people weren't mad at us because I think we had done such a great job of building that relationship that people were willing to say like, hey, listen, do what it takes. If it takes you longer, because like some of our equipment wasn't coming in time, and usually we're very timely, but we didn't, it just built us up to a level where no one was upset. It made a very smooth transition for us. So that's number one.
Yeah.
But number two, that was very important, was in 2020, when all of this happened, we looked at our business and we thought, okay, we are considered essential. And even if we weren't, we were just like, we're going to do it. People need AC. It's in Houston.
People need AC.
I wasn't waiting for someone to tell me I'm essential. I'm like, we're essential. People will die. So we knew that was where our business was. So then my next step was like thinking, what can we do for our clients that will help them with whatever situation they're going through. So we looked at how can we get our pricing for our equipment down so that we can give those cost savings to our clients. So we did not jack up our prices. We didn't do any promotionals. I told my team, we're not going to run any ads, and I want to take that money and do like grocery giveaways. You know, we did a lot of like small business. So if you shopped at a local small business and you brought us your receipt, you got a percentage off whatever you needed to do here, because I knew people were going to need AC, but I also wanted people to still support local businesses as much as possible. So it was just little things like that don't take much effort, but it goes a long way. We got our financing terms lowered so that our clients, some of them got 0% interest, meaning they could get their service without having to pay for almost a year and a half. And then even if they did have to pay, like if they couldn't do the no interest plan, their monthly payments were so low. We got some payments as low as like $30 a month for an AC. So it was just thinking ahead of like our clients, if they are in a bad situation, what can we do to alleviate that for them? It's always customer focus.
Oh my God, like this sounds heavenly. Because here in Arizona, and if you live in Arizona, I don't know what it is, but since we moved here, we can't get people to call us back. We can't get contractors to even call us back. We're like, we'd like to give you money. And this was even before, the pandemic. We were like, we have money to spend. We have a lot of problems with X. We need help with this. And they wouldn't call back. And then what's interesting is even during some of the shutdowns last year, there were some businesses that we work with. So for example, we have a 2014 Land Rover. It's one of the last years they made the real boxy ones. They're super cool. We got the Aussie sticker on the back for my husband. It looks like it can go off-road any moment. And we take it to a special Land Rover, not the main dealer, but like these special guys in town. And we love it. They're usually, they've been great. But it was interesting though, that we didn't even know they were open until later. And it would have been a great opportunity for them to reach out and say, hey, we hope you're doing well during everything, the shutdown. By the way, since you're not going anywhere, it's a great time to get the car serviced. We know there were a few things that you were looking at, fixing up or tricking out, like bring it in. It would have been a great time for us to go, oh my God, you're right. Like we're home, we're sticking around. If you're an essential service, why don't we drop off the car for the week? You could do everything we had on the list. Like we didn't even know they were open. And so Brett and I are talking, everyone has their backup businesses that they're like, wouldn't it be great to run a blank in this town? Because no one can do blank right around here. And so people don't realize a lot of these things also cost you nothing. Right. It's picking up the phone. It's maybe low cost, have Aunt Myrtle get on the phone and make some calls or get customer birthdays or something. Right. But like it's the touch, it's the human touch that is, and it sounds cliche, and I know it's not sexy. It's not as sexy as like running a group on, the new apps or things like that. And the tech will be around, but these skills are not going away. In fact, they're going to be more and more in demand. And actually, you built a lot of your business, you said, knocking on doors and having conversations, right?
Absolutely. I did a lot of non-sexy things. If we're going to be talking about non-sexy, I mean, it was as unsexy gets. But let me tell you what is sexy. When you see your growth, and even in 2020, we have, I think my CPA just told me we 6x'd our business last year in 2020. We ran no ads, 0 ad spend, okay? And then we gave 75% back. So, I mean, 75% more. So we did 75% more in give back than we've ever done in a year like 2020. So that's the reason I say non-sexy goes a long way. So when I was knocking on doors, and that's how we started this business, it was me getting out there with a Be Cool t-shirt on, knocking on small, I didn't do residential because technically it's against the law here in Texas. Not that I care about that, but I did go to the commercial properties, and it was so cool because there are a lot of small mom and pop commercial buildings like that do business out here. And so first of all, these people have homes. So residentially, I'm going to get that business. But two, it's you go into one business and you build these relationships. And you know what's so beautiful about this? And this is what makes me want to like go back to the olden days, kicking it old school. Because when you go to these small businesses and you develop these relationships with your local community, then it not only brings you business, but it also is like a barter type situation. Like I'm friends with the dentist, and if I need dental work, I know who to go to, right? And I know who to refer people to. And then I got a local baker who will give me a great rate, and I don't have to shop and spend tons of money because she knows exactly what we want. And so we have a lot of these really cool barter relationships. Not that I'm giving business away for free, but it's building these awesome relationships where they're going to send me referrals. I send them referrals. And then if I need anything locally, I know exactly who to go to. And so just like it's compounded the benefits that you get from doing stuff like that. And yeah, at the beginning, it was me knocking on these doors, and I got about 100 no's, but I got 1 yes. And so every day I knew that, okay, it takes me 100 to get to my 1 yes. So I'll go knock on 100 doors knowing that I'm going to get that 1 yes. And then now it's not like that anymore. But at the beginning, it's so imperative on that foundational level.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I switch gears, could you give out information where people can learn more about you? And then we'll get into some juicy stuff.
Yeah, sure. So right now I play on Instagram mostly. So I actually closed my Twitter. I closed my Facebook group. So it's at Entrepreneur Sara, and that's just Sara with Sara. But that's where I'm hanging out. And then I have a podcast coming out at the end of this month. It's going to be called Renegade Radio, which we'll talk more about what that means. But that's where everybody can come and hang out with me, and it's fun. And you'll find out when the podcast and everything's coming out. So
yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'm excited to have you on the show because you and I offline, in groups of the trust, and then, kind of with some of the other women there, have talked a lot about, I remember you weren't there in Miami last year. You weren't part of us yet, right? But that's when this talk started. We started seeing what was going on in the world, right? And there was a few issues. First of all, there was, of course, the pandemic happening. But then there's a lot of other weird stuff starting to happen with like big business, big companies. We're starting to just see like it was a strange year and a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of disruption issues, things that we weren't paying attention to before that are really right now in our face. And so a great example of this that I'd love to bring up, and I just did a quick live that we were going to probably talk about this, was the GameStop, I don't even know what to call it, incident, or this was just last week. Do you know, the news moves so quickly. It feels like a year ago already. You're like, no, that was like Thursday or whatever it was. So for those of you, and I know some of my friends have been following, and some are like, what are you talking about? Isn't that the old retail store where the geeky kids go to buy games, and why is it even around, right? So let me give just the cliff notes, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I don't have the details in front of me, but these hedge funds bet on stocks to drop. It's called shorting, right? So is that correct? Are you a stock person? Something like that.
I think
so. They bet on these stocks to drop, right? So this group of investors on Reddit has been having conversations, and they're like, look at this one. Let's pump it up. And not only do we think we can make a bunch of money, but we can kind of stick it to these hedge fund guys because they've been jerking people around for years and forcing companies to close. And that was their perspective, right? So they did it. And some of you probably heard this. Few of these guys one of them made over $30 million, and they took this stock like up. But what happened in the process, again, super high cliff notes, is the hedge funds lost like billions and billions of dollars, like in a day or something crazy. And so that's all fine and well, right? You're like, well, why should I care about this? That's kind of fun. What was interesting to watch is that then some of the investing platforms, particularly one called Robinhood is the one I heard the most about. I heard that some other ones were doing this too, but then blocked people from buying certain stocks, including that one. And then people went and rushed to give the Robinhood app 1-star reviews on Google, I believe it was. And then Google, looks like someone made a call to Google and said, hey, we're getting a bunch of bad reviews. Can you fix all that? And they were scrubbed, 100,000 bad reviews scrubbed. So you could just see, okay, this is what made me crazy. This is what I started to follow along. I'm like, wait, then you see how this is all connected. You see how it all works. And the reason I wanted to bring this up on this interview with you is that you and I have talked a lot about system disruption this year and things blowing up to be fixed. And so when we back up and look at everything going on right now, from government to health to education, I mean, there's a lot of disruption. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on this because I know that you've made many of the same observations early on, probably before a lot of people did.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised when I heard of what happened with like the GameStop Reddit incident. And what, from a macro level, like what it means to me, right? Is because I don't get in the nitty gritty either, but it was very clear to me that there has been stock market manipulation from the hedge funds for as long as there's been a stock market, right? And so as long as it was in their benefit, there was no problem with that, right? Nobody cared. They just went about their business. They continued making loads of money and it was totally fine. But then when you have like the average Joe, like these Reddit people that figured out, okay, hey, if they can do it, so can we. So let's go in on this stock like GameStop stock, which is hilarious. And then they're the ones that are benefiting from it. And then the hedge funds would be the ones that actually suffered. Then it's like, oh, nope, now we're going to change the rules and we're going to go in and stop the buying of the stock, right? So that way we're not hurting more than we need to, right? And so that is my problem with it, is like seeing that they can really quickly just change up the rules so that when they're hurting it, they can end it, right? But when we're hurting because of the games that they're playing or the manipulation that they're playing, no one can put an end to it, right? That's just the way it is. So I think that is what is happening with this whole GameStop Reddit thing, is that we are seeing the holes in the system, right? And we're seeing how the system is designed with not our best interest at heart, right? It is designed to help enable and further the agenda or the revenue and the money and stuff like that they're making, the benefits that they're making. However, it's not really in our best interest, right? So I think that's what we're seeing a lot of. And just like you mentioned, it's not just the stock market. I mean, everything's being brought to light. Everything that was not working or was corrupt or was rigged in certain ways, right? It's being brought to the surface so that now we can see it. And now we have to realize like, okay, what do we want to do about this, right?
Yeah, I think what's blowing my mind the most is like, you see this stuff happen, you're like, they're not even trying to hide this. It's like watching this thing happen and like, that the app is just like, well, you people can't trade then because my billionaire friends are losing money. You're like, well, you didn't even try to secretly do this. Like,
no, and that's what's funny.
Right out there.
Yes. And I don't know if you watch, I also haven't had time to like really, because this just happened. So I haven't really been in there researching. Yeah. But it's funny because one of my friends that I spoke to about this, who was like, listen, there's no conspiracy, there's no scandal. Basically, the app didn't have enough money to like liquefy like if they allowed people to purchase, they didn't have enough money to pay out for the people who purchased those stocks. But then when you see the Reddit owner, the Robinhood owner or CEO or whatever, on like the news channels. And when they asked him specifically if that was the reason why he put a stop to people buying, and he said, no, that wasn't the reason. So it's crazy because it's like, just like you said, it's blatant and it's in our face and it's like, it's not even being hidden anymore. And so it's just like, we have to open our eyes and really look at it. Like right now, when something like this happens, the days of us ignoring it and just thinking like, maybe this was a fluke, like maybe it was a one-off, like, something that happened. It's like, no, we are being shown at every angle, all of the things that aren't really working or haven't worked for so long. And it's time that we take a look at it, even if we don't understand it, take a look at it for ourselves. We don't rely on someone to tell us like the story, because if you do not research for yourself and use your own discernment and critical thinking to think like, what does this mean? someone else will feed you a story. And that might not be the story that's in your best interest. And that might not be the accurate story, but they're going to feed it to you because that is what people are doing right now. If you're not willing to do the research for yourself, somebody else will tell you what to think. And so are you cool with thinking what they want you to think, or do you want to think for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's shift now, because I know that when we know this is all happening, and there's some mornings that if I read too much, I just don't want to get out from under the duvet. And then, or today, maybe I'll just drive away in my Porsche. And when I flip my thinking though, and I back up, and I think this is what everyone needs to do now, is just kind of take a deep breath and back up and observe, right? Don't be in it, observe it, observe everything going on. On the other side, Sara, what do you feel is the opportunities for all the business owners watching right now?
Well, I love just exactly what you said, that the observer point of view right now for everything that's going on is the most beneficial, because if you're in the thick of it, it's just like that saying that if you're like, looking through the trees, you can't see the forest, right? And so right now it's important for us all to just get macro for a minute and look at the forest so we can see how this plays out, because then you will see all of the different opportunities. So for me, when I look at stuff like this that's happening, I think about not just with the stock market, but if I see like in corporate how things aren't working right, and people, like what we talked about with the business side of it, how it's getting to be real technology based. They've lost a lot of the human connection, stuff like that. As a business owner, I think, how can I find more ways to connect with my clients, right? Personalize my business so that way I am ahead of this game. So when I see this happen in the stock market, for example, and I see that they're manipulating and playing with the rules, that makes me think of like, which revenue streams can I look at that I can increase on, and which revenue streams do I not need to put all my eggs into? Now, I'm not saying don't do investments or stocks or whatever, because right now, while some stuff is working, it's fine. But what I am saying is that when you see things like that, they should be a red flag that if I'm putting all my eggs in this basket, when is it going to blow up, right? Mm-hmm. And so what other revenue streams can I look at that are actually going to outlast the systems falling apart, right? And so when you see this, it's like you look at the holes and then you find out where are my skills the most utilized. When you see the education system and people are not happy with some of the education system, and you're like, well, I would love to start a school that's entrepreneurial based, for example, I'm just putting one out there, then that's what you should start taking the steps into. I'm not saying you do it right away, but you see where your vision will take you, because you see something that's broken and you see where you can utilize your skills to come up with a solution that might be what people are into right now, but we're going in that direction.
Yeah, when you can prove and show that you're actually creating something for the people now, I think that's where the line, people are saying that. Look, Robinhood's been saying that. Look at the name. Look at their ads. They even showed their ads. It's about like empowering the common person. Then you realize, oh my God, this is all BS, right? I think just looking forward, for those of you who are thinking ahead, and I want you to think, it's hard. I know day to day things are just crazy right now, and you have to be very present and aware of what's going on. But when you back up and think, you know what? How can I vision the next few years if I really want to create something that is a legacy builder, that is my mark on the world for when I was here? Think about your industry, or even one that you want to jump to. Like, education is my secret fantasy industry to go create some amazing school for kids, right? Because it's a great example, because we kind of tolerated the system for a while. It works, you pack the lunches, send them off, right? But then this year we're kind of like, oh, maybe it's time for something new, because people are ready for it now, right? So pick that industry and think, what would benefit the people? How could I create something that would be groundbreaking? And I'm telling you, the need is going to be there as some of these systems now just get shut down, disrupted, blown up, whatever happens. People are going to be looking for new solutions and new opportunities to do things in a brand new way. That includes everything from health and wellness. Now you see a huge new focus on immunity and really holistic care. I mean, that's a great example for that industry going forward. People are going to be spending more money in that category. Financial, who knows, currencies, and I don't know what to make of a lot of that right now, but just, new ways to invest, new ways to, maybe we'll be trading bars of gold. I have no idea. Like,
well, and to just like keep going with that point, Allie, I think it's important also just to say to people that, especially someone who's listening to your show, if you're part of Allie's tribe, then you're probably a leader, right? And so as leaders, when we're seeing these systems fall apart, right, and we're taking that observer stance from it, it's not important for us to see how exactly the steps are going to be for whatever your role in this is, right? I mean, what I mean by that is that it's okay if the road isn't exactly paved and you can't exactly see it, because we are pioneering a new way that we have never seen before. And that can be overwhelming if you think that you need to find out all the steps, that A, B, C. If you're thinking linearly, like you're going to be the one that knows exactly how the step goes into building this new thing that we're building, it's going to feel like a big burden to carry. So instead, if you can serve as that observer and just tap into really your intuition as a leader, because that's what's gotten you to this point right here, and just trust that the way will make itself present, right? As long as you just focus on the greater good, on how you can help, on being heart-centered, staying in alignment, right? Not following the status quo, not panicking, all of that. So everything you can do to go within, if you can do that right now, then the road will become available to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love this. We can go a few hours on this. This is amazing. So my last question, Sara, is can you talk about the importance of who you surround yourself with? I know that you've mentioned to me when we've had the chance to spend time together that's been an important factor to you in your career, and especially currently. Would you mind talking on that?
Absolutely. So last year, one of the things that was a huge aha for me was to make sure that I talked to the right community and I was surrounding myself, because when things get crazy, and if you are a leader in business, sometimes and just like what I mentioned about tapping into intuition, you tap into your intuition and you know what's right for you. But if you're talking to a community, or if you're leaning on to someone who might be sucked into the panic or is not able to get above the fray, even though you know what's right for you, if you communicate it with those people, they might deter you from stepping into your own empowerment, right? Just because they're hitting you with like, oh no, but what if, right? And so last year, two of the things that I relied on the most was just, one was my community of like the women that I cherish dearly. And then when I was almost at the point of burnout, I joined actually the Trust, Allie, your organization, which I'll let you talk about how great that is. But I was so grateful for that, because there were so many things that last year I did that didn't sound good on paper. They just sounded crazy to a normal person. And had I relied on, just the normal person to give me advice, I might have just stepped away from that. And when I came to the Trust meeting in September, it was just like a breath of fresh air, because the women there really embraced me and also made me feel like what I was doing was really the right steps, right? So it's just the environment that you're in, where people are in like an abundance mindset, thinking like visionaries and leaders, instead of getting sucked into some of the chaos, right, that we're seeing externally. So it was I was happy to be able to like ground, and stay in alignment. And that was really a huge step that helped me do just that.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. One thing I've really been thrilled about with the group is kind of its own evolution this year, and I started it as a business group in mind, seeing the needs, saying, there needs to be kind of a modern style, alternative network for women who are like us and just a little bit different, different breed. We're different birds. So it came from that place, just simply seeing the need, but now it's evolved into something really interesting, because the women in there are real, they're critical thinkers. They approach things differently. We have women in there from many different cultures, belief systems, even political sides, but are able to sit at a table together and have civil, intelligent, mature conversations. I haven't seen that in a long time. And it was amazing to witness, and like helping each other just not only get through this year, but now like think, okay, how do we think bigger? What is our legacy in, going into the next several years based on what's happening in the world? And I know that that's going to be a big part of the conversation that we have coming up in Miami. So speaking of, before I forget, I get so excited just to talk to you, Sara. Let me put this on. So before I forget, I'm leading a call this Wednesday on Wednesday, February 3rd at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, for anyone who's interested in hearing more about the trust. This is a non-committal call. It's for you to just spend some time with me. I'm going to be walking you through why I decided to create a new women's network. Really, I'm telling you, the more I got into this year, the more I realized that new times require a new network like this. So here's the link to look at joining us. It's jointhetrust.org/private invitation. Jointhetrust.org/private invitation. We'll put it in the links for you underneath as well. And the thing to remember, going into the next few years, and I keep on saying going into this year, but it's 2021, and I don't know. It's February now. Do you realize that too? It's like I don't.
Time is like has changed so much in the last year. 2020 was like 10 years rolled into one, and now it's like.
Yeah. I saw some meme like I just experienced my free 30-day trial, and I'd like my money back for 2021.
It's like 2020. I feel like it's 2024 is when we're going to be in the clear. I don't know, but
I don't know. But here's the thing I know for sure, right, Oprah's? Here's what I know for sure, that without women like Sara in the trust this year, like I think it would have been a lot harder for me personally as well, because these women are amazing. The conversations that I've had with them give me new ideas and keep me going forward. And ladies, this is the new level. So if you're feeling like a lot of the conversations out there for women entrepreneurs are a bit immature, if they're focused on the wrong things, if it's all just about following a formula. And listen, we all need formulas. Formulas are what help build my business. But you're going to get to a point at that 7-8 figure range where you're like, all right, could use some advice from people who have been here before, know what they're doing. But also, what is this really about? What am I here to create? Why am I here at this time right now in the middle of all this? Is there something new percolating that I would like to explore and be around some amazing women who are in that same mindset? Then come join us. Come look at joining us. I'm going to give that link one more time before we wrap up here. It's jointhetrust.org/private invitation. And ladies, if you're watching and you're not at the 7-figure level yet, then please pass this on to someone you know who may be looking for something different this year. The nice thing is that we're also designed to be a great complement to other programs they're in. This is not a coaching program. I want to emphasize that. This is an incredible circle of women who are designed, they're there to help you reach your goals, however you're going out and doing that. So Sara, last words of advice for everyone based on, who you've become in the process and going into the next, this year and next year, and just, kind of like last words for everybody.
Well, and it's tied into what you were just saying about the trust, but right now and going forward, your energy is everything. It is literally everything. Your energy is so precious. It is the hottest commodity, more so than cash or anything else. And so it is so important for us to realize just how powerful we are and reclaim our energy. Right? If our energy is seeping out. And so that's why I mentioned the trust, because I left an organization that I was in a group of women, and I felt very stagnant. When we had conversations, I would leave the conversations and my energy was drained. And if you're doing anything like that, granted, there's some things you have to do, but I'm talking about if your community makes you feel that way, where you leave it and you just feel like you've been battling, it's because you have been. And it's because your energy is draining out of you. And right now is not the time for us to let any energy slip out. And so we have to make sure we're in communities and we are doing what we can, even on a daily basis without the community, to really harness our energy, really protect it, guard it, build it, fortify it, make it so strong so that we can withstand any more chaos that comes our way. Because as we've seen from 2020 and even now in 2021, there is going to be that external chaos. And so the more stronger you can be and empowered you can be within your own energy, the better you will be being able to be that observer, so we can keep our vision, right? And keep moving forward and actually be ahead of the game when this thing does blow over, and be the pioneers in building what's to come. So if I can say anything, it's that guard your energy, protect your energy, and make sure the people you are surrounded with are those that will actually help empower you versus suck that energy out of you.
I love that. Sara, thank you so much for joining us today. And be sure to follow Sara online. And I hope to see some of you on that call this week. It's jointhetrust.org/private invitation. All right, take care. Bye, Sara.
Bye, Sally. Bye.